Hey, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, depending upon. This is a session in which we are going to talk about artificial intelligence. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, the company in the region which comes to mind is Addo.Ai, and we are very lucky to have the founders from Addo.Ai. Dr. Ayesha Khanna is here. Hi, Ayesha. So special thanks to her. It's past midnight. She's based in Singapore at this time. And thank you very much for joining us at this time. We also have the president of Addo.Ai, Faisal Kamiran. Faisal, I'm assuming you are based in Lahore, so not too far from where I am. Probably you can hear me from the air. So thank you very much. Thank you both for joining. And I would also like to thank two other things. One is Park Launch, which has provided this platform to hold these sessions. Very informative for the community. People would know. Hopefully, by the end of the session, people will get an idea about what this fuzz about the data and big data and data analytics. Why we are into this era of last decade. We have seen a lot of companies coming up which are talking about using data and making data-driven decisions. And the other thing that I'm going to thank is this energy drink that I'm drinking. Sorry, I can't offer it to anyone else. So we are going to get started right away. I think the introductions first. I would request Ayesha and Faisal, both of them, one by one, to introduce themselves. So Ayesha, if you can go first.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. It's such a pleasure. A little bit about myself. I was born in Lahore and then spent a lot of time outside Pakistan, first studying in America, then working on Wall Street, then doing my PhD in London, and then moved to Singapore. And it's been one of the highlights of my career after working in software engineering and data science on Wall Street and other places, to actually come and form a team in Pakistan. And this only happened because I met my co-founder, Dr. Faisal, who will just be speaking soon, about how we could together build a company that would really help clients become more customer-centric using data and artificial intelligence. So we started this company a little over 4 years ago, and it's been quite a wild ride since then. I'm very happy to talk about it during this session. So thanks for having me here.
Thank you, Ayesha. Faisal, if you can go ahead.
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much, Dartash, Ali, and Park Launch for this event and giving us this opportunity to share some more details about Addo.Ai. A brief introduction about myself. I did my PhD from Eindhoven University of Technology in machine learning and data science. I was lucky, like one of the first few PhDs. At that time, the area was just starting to boom, by the first decade of 21st century. And since that time, I'm involved in different capacities with the governments, private sectors on solving big data and machine learning problems. I have experience of working with the government of Pakistan, Punjab, Dubai government, and several other. I also won a major World Bank Research Innovation Award. And I'm the person who have background from academia, also from industry, and also from research. So I know what kind of rigor academia can offer and what kind of best practices industry wants. Yeah, thank you so much.
So Faisal, you are balancing between academia and industry simultaneously even now, right?
Yeah, I always try to do that because the gap is huge. It's not very easy thing to manage it, but we always try it. At least try to teach things what is needed in industry, and in the industry we try to bring people with minimal gap and try to train them so that at least people can come and they can come at power where they can serve to international industry.
Yeah, I mean it's great to have a grasp on both of those, so that you can train people that you are going to use in the industry. These days everyone is talking about the shortage of human resources, not just in Pakistan, but globally. And, it is good to have that opportunity that you can hire people and you can groom people in the industry that you have, trained from the beginning at the university. So yeah, very lucky to have both of you here. Thank you so much. So I'm going to talk about the story of Addo. Kya story hai iski? And I will begin by saying that I think it was about 2017 timeframe. I was visiting Singapore. I was giving a talk at NUS, and this guy who is a professor at NUS also worked part-time, I think, at the Ministry of Education. And he asked me, we were at lunch, and he asked me, do you know about this company, Addo.Ai? And I did not at that time. So, I had heard of Faisal at that time. I'm not entirely sure if I had met him at that time or not, but I did not know much about the company. But now we do. So tell us about the story of Addo. And it seems that you started off in the early days in Singapore and Pakistan simultaneously. So what happened? How did the idea came about? How did you guys met? And what was the vision at that time? So if you can talk about that briefly, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go and then Faisal can add to it. So Faisal and I were both thinking about starting, we're seeing the opportunity. I was seeing it in Singapore. He was seeing it in Lahore. Coincidentally, we were both thinking of starting our own companies that would specifically, help large enterprises leverage this gold mine that they were literally sitting on, and start a very kind of focused and elite kind of commando data science and AI firm. So when I was going to Pakistan, and I go quite frequently, so on one of my trips, I said, please introduce me to one of the leading data scientists in Pakistan. So I asked a lot of people, and then I was at Information Technology University. And at that time, the Vice Chancellor Umar Saif said, Ayesha, you should meet Dr. Faisal. And his office is just 2 floors down. So that was very, very prophetic, because I went down those 2 floors and my husband and I met Faisal, and immediately we totally clicked, because I think we were just at that time when we were both looking to start something. And in particular, I think we felt that we had the same vision of the kind of company we wanted to start. So we didn't want to start an offshore consulting firm. We wanted to be like the McKinsey of AI. We wanted to be a global firm. We wanted to be a strategic AI consulting firm, which is able to help companies problem solve with AI. Not कि आप हमें बता दें आपकी क्या requirements हैं और हम कर देंगे. And that is, we felt that actually AI and big data are very creative ways of innovating and problem solving. So वो फिर हमने इकट्ठे शुरू किया. There were, I think, just 3 of us around a little table, and then me on a speakerphone from Singapore. And that was our first couple of meetings. And from there, we just grew and grew to, mashallah, to literally some of the biggest clients in Asia, now the Middle East, and now America. So I'll let Faisal add a little bit more, but that was our story. It was like any entrepreneurial story. It had a lot of highs and lows in the beginning. And still, as we're going through another growth spurt, it comes with its own challenges then.
Exactly. I think at that time, I think that was our first meeting. And the fun part of this one is when I got a call from Umar Saif's office, like Ayesha Khanna wants to meet you. And do you have time? I said, yes, why not? And I was waiting for Ayesha. In the meantime, I just Google it, Ayesha Khanna. So I think there was also a name, some model Ayesha Khanna. So I was just wondering, like, why this model wants to meet you. But anyway, jab hamari mulaqat hui, so then it was a different Ayesha. But anyway, I think that was the right Ayesha. But actually, I think what was needed for Pakistan. होता ये था कि whenever I wanted to, like, when I came back, I started to teach like data science and machine learning. At that time, I used to give some statement about McKinsey and different surveys, like there will be a huge shortage of data scientists and a lot of potential in like 2 years, 5 years. But I was always uncertain, like would hire these people? Like, is it real? I'm claiming this thing to my students, and maybe after 5 years, if this is not true, how would I face that? And that was my desire, like to build something, at least just to overcome that what we want to teach, जो हम काम करें वही हम students को पढ़ाएं. This was one of the motive. And other thing was, if we want to, we need to engage those people. We need to teach in a way so that we can hire these people. That should be the level of our teaching and our training. And I think these things motivates me to at least build something so that we can hire our own people. We can give them, of course, they're open to join anyone. And at least the level of our training should be like that. And I think this is we are at the point right now that we look for people, and people have a great demand locally and internationally. At the same time, I think we could have built like very ordinary company, like something who are building small things. But Ayesha helped us to raise our level. For example, when I say Addo.Ai is different, so this is like the whole credit goes to Ayesha, because from the first day, so Ayesha had a very Singaporean style. Like, okay, the client qualifying criteria is very like stop. It should be enterprise. It should be the top client. And whenever we are going, we should not go as a kind of like mediocre firm. We should try to give them solutions. We should try to give them strategy. And the good part is, like, all our teams sitting in Lahore, they are doing it, like to all top firms, enterprise firms from Singapore, from US, from Middle East. So I think that due to this Ayesha's kind of very high level of commitment to make a global firm of high caliber, it helped us to raise the level where Addo.Ai is right now.
Great. Thank you, Faisal. Thank you. Before we jump into what the company does and dig down a little bit into the details of what are the projects that you're doing, what kind of data science applications you are involved in. So I'm just going to ask about, you said that you started 4 or 5 years ago with 3 people around the table. What is the team size now, and where it is based? Do you have some people in Singapore, in Pakistan, elsewhere? Total team size, if you can talk about that very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are about 125 of us in Lahore at the moment, plus 25 PhDs who work with us globally. And then there are, I would say, about 10 of us around the world who are our business officers who work with us in America, in the Middle East, in Indonesia, and Singapore. But the entire core of the company is in Lahore, where both our families are, where we are all the time, and our office is in DHA.
Okay, so I'm going to ask about one last question about the company intro. Is what kind of challenges did you face in putting this team together? And I would like you to think back a little bit and answer this question in 2 parts. Very early days when you had just very few people, maybe started with 3 people, putting together a team of, let's say, the first 10 people. And what are the challenges now in the later years? So if you can talk about that, maybe we will get input on this question from Faisal as well, because he is based in Lahore, where bulk of the team is. So if you can highlight some of the challenges that you face, that would be great.
Definitely. I think, Zartash, in Pakistan, talent is we have a great talent, and they are very kind of career oriented. They're smart. They don't only look for money and just kind of like the job. Actually, they look for what kind of work they would be doing. I think we were lucky in the beginning because we got very high caliber and high impact projects. Like our first project was with the SMRT, the largest transport company in Singapore, and it was a huge project. And I think that was the kind of one tool what we used in the beginning, because we were lucky, the leadership was there, and we had a very great project where people can come and they can build their career over there. So I think this was one of the good thing what we had in the beginning. And at the same time, so if you are, your stuff, it really helps, because people always come to you. They feel that if we join this team, they can learn from you. I think that was second thing where we were fortunate. We can always assure people that if you come here, you will always you will upskill yourself, you will build your career. And third thing, I think it was very hard, but at that time it was just commitments. Like we could tell people like, okay, come here for your career, for your lifetime career, not only for just like one job or 1 year or 2 years. And I think with the grace of Allah, we were very lucky that we were able to complete our commitments, and whatever we promised at that time, we were able to hold that. Like the persons, 3 persons who joined in our in our like maybe first 2 days or first like 1 week, so they are still working with Addo.Ai. So this is the kind of like, and the result is their dedication, of course, loyalty, but at the same time, the opportunities they are getting. Like on every day, they get a new challenging project. They feel like they have a huge learning opportunities, clients, and exposure. They're directly meeting to the C-suite. So this is, I think, this really helped us in the beginning. Ayesha, if you want to add something.
Ayesha, you want to add? Yeah.
I will say I meet a lot of companies that have big data engineering or data science teams. उनकी छोटी teams होती हैं. Yeah, they are not actually that good. What happens is very interesting. Once you cross 100 people who are just a network of people that have 7 different roles that are just from data engineering, data science, ML ops, data architecture, big data architecture, and इसमें जब आपके सारे AI की specializations, then you begin to have a network effect. And that has its own gravitational power and force, which means that now you have something you can ask somebody else in the team. So that makes a big difference. What we're seeing now is that network effect is hard to compete with, because everybody's building it, but we are so focused on this, and we're getting more and more people. So inshallah, by next year we'll double. So that is very unusual, even though everybody and their grandmother claims कि वो ये कर रहे हैं, but actually नहीं कर रहे होते. And the second thing is that not everybody has the people with PhDs or background leading the firm, or these professor networks that we have that are so useful and actually come and validate and red team our work. उससे बहुत फर्क पड़ता है in the quality of the work that goes in and the governance of it. So one of the things that if you're working in Pakistan remotely, and now there are going to be so many ways to do that, and so many more opportunities of digital work in the world, is the quality control is also very important. So that is both as a result of the theoretical background of the people on top, because everybody, as you know, can have done their courses, but if your theory is deep and strong, then you can actually work with your team better. And the second is the governance procedures that we put in place, that our clients all over the world are reassured that all the creative, out-of-the-box thinking, the good technical skills from the Pakistan team are really brought to the fore without any issues. So उससे बहुत फर्क पड़ता है. These kind of pillars, और ये पहले नहीं था इतना, but we have reached that point now, and it'll only get better, inshallah.
Great. I think you are absolutely right in saying that, as the size of the company increases, the numbers increase, obviously the challenges also increase, but this, big snowball effect that you get, and the big network that you get, it's not just linearly proportional. I mean, it's exponential. The impact that you can have is really, you double the size of the company, the impact would probably be 4 times or 8 times more. But I think it also takes a lot of confidence and desire to build a team that big, in a specific area like data science and AI. Also, what you said, Kamran, I think it is also important to make sure that people that you are hiring, they are engaged in doing something that they really enjoy. It's not something which is just paying their bills, or so absolutely right about the talent in Pakistan. Lots and lots of very, very smart people, and although money is important, but I've seen a lot of people around that prefer working in a more challenging environment where they are constantly growing and learning new things every day. rather than the amount of money that they are getting as a salary. Yeah, so absolutely right on that. So I'm going to.
I would like to add, if you allow me, just I will quickly add, like I think the skill set and the competencies what we have at Addo.Ai is like data science, machine learning, data engineering, MLOps, and building scalable large platforms where people can have like they can provision their infra, they can provision their data models and build their ML use cases very easily. So every day these things bring new challenges, because whenever we work with like all around the world on these use cases and on these platforms, so I think it brings new challenges every day. And even every day that the experts what we have, they enjoy, because it's not something like it's not that much of donkey work. It always comes that you have, sometimes you need to write like SQL, you need to write some other things, but there is challenging. For example, maybe, and the work what we do in the company is all high tech. We always prefer, for example, like we will prefer, like if we have to write the data pipelines, we will prefer Spark pipelines, like anything which is more advanced and which is being used like in Uber, being used like in Apple and all other companies like that. This is the thing what we try to at least get from there and try to help our team as a one team. Now, it's not only like enforce, just to help them that let's try to do the same work, but the like global companies or the top-notch companies are doing, and let's try to serve our client in that way.
Okay, so transitioning from the company to the broader area, and I had a question which connects these two areas, and I see in the chat window a few people are asking similar type of questions as well. That are you focused on just services? Do you have you built some intellectual property? What is the model that you are currently following, and do you have a plan to change that model? I got a hint, but maybe you will change that model sometimes in future. But can you tell us a little bit about that? Currently, the model is more services kind of a model, or do you have some intellectual property at the moment as well?
So currently, the model is services, and it's moving towards this hybrid consulting firm, which is man plus machine, right? So there's some really great questions on what is it, services or is it a product model? The thing is that we go after very large clients with kind of specific problems, but we don't want to help them by building everything from scratch. That would be bizarre. Being kind of an automation company, we ourselves are completely labor intensive. So what we have done is we have started to build accelerators, which are code bases that can actually be used to help understand language better, to help optimize and forecast better, to help even do data modeling from certain electronic medical health record systems to other systems. So all of the stuff that we're accumulating, we're institutionalizing it. And we're building this knowledge base, which has a greater acceleration to market. So this means that part of our scripts are also automated increasingly. And that's a very similar model that most services firms are following as well, the good ones at least. So I would say in the future, what we're moving towards is this man-machine consulting firm, just as we advise our clients as well. Faisal, would you want to add something to that? Or on the accelerators that we're building, for example?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is very important, because the demand what we are seeing right now, and and difficulties in the area of data science and machine learning, this is very important, that we need to come up with a model where we don't do everything from scratch, because every day we have new challenges. At least we cannot remove all the challenges, but at least we can, whatever we solve, we try to reuse that one. I think this is a model where we are moving. And so probably I think we're very confident that maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, we would have like a lot of support from the work what we have done. It's not only it will be basically two types. One, of course, these actual assets, what we are building right now. But at the same time, many things like which is kind of domain knowledge and lesson learned from the different projects. So this would also become part of these accelerators, which is not exactly the code, but actually that will be a kind of practices that our team is following.
So
So
Faisal, if I
the goal is to reduce the cost and increase the scale, right? So those are the two main drivers, and this is the best way to achieve it.
okay, so if I get it correctly, Faisal, you are not just using your domain knowledge that you gain from many different projects that you are doing, but also there is some element of code reuse as well. Is that the thing?
Exactly. I think that is first part, which is like only like learnings and domain knowledge and maybe certain use cases what we do for certain business areas. But at the same time, so when we solve problem, maybe if just to give you an example, for example, if we solve a computer vision problem, right? There was a certain challenge in retail that we solved by using computer vision. So we will try to have like this customized solution in our library, which we can reuse whenever we do something similar in future for that one. So here our team we would not have to like rebuild everything from scratch. At least whatever the build from senior team and the lesson learned by using like senior architects at that time, maybe the team of mid-size can accelerate this whole implementation, which would help us to reduce the cost of our clients and also improve the quality, because we are not starting from the scratch. We just have something and we are trying to improve that part.
So Faisal, I think every enterprise, every large corporation, big companies, they are talking about data usage and making decisions that are data driven, and extracting analytics from that data is extremely important to them. But we also understand that every enterprise is a different beast. They have different sort of processes. It's just like you are implementing some enterprise software, let's say an ERP system, at two different companies. You will need a lot of customization. We know that you always need a lot of customization, but there is still some in the traditional sort of enterprise systems, we do understand that there is a common thing as well. So that's why you have companies like PeopleSoft and Oracle's win big. Do you think that in the data science AI area you can have this sort of core components or utilities that you can use for in multiple environments with different companies, different clients? How easy it is to define that core set, or what are the challenges in defining that core set? And I'm assuming that core set would probably be evolving with time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this core set is already being developed by Google, by AWS, by Microsoft, and we leverage these. So whether it is personalization or recommendation engines, AWS has something. Whether it is chatbots, Google has something, and we should stand on the shoulders of machines. The whole idea behind any services firm, any consulting firm, any product firm, is to make the life of your customer easier, not to try to show them a path which is more manual, labor intensive and time intensive. So we leverage these all the time, and our own accelerators will be on these marketplaces potentially as well for these big cloud providers, and they encourage people to put it there. So again, it becomes easier for clients to reuse them. And then you have product companies such as Data Robot or H2O that really is for people who don't know anything about data science, and it's just very plug and play. That only gets you so far, obviously, exactly as you said, because the problem is not just the AI, वो data भी सारा connect करना है अंदर. So actually 60% of the problem is okay, where is the data residing? What's the golden source of truth? How do you connect it? And people in the media tend to focus a lot on the AI part. But actually, a lot of the part is building the foundation, an intelligent data platform in itself. And that also is, or data engineering is a very important point, especially for large companies, unlike new companies like startups that have this data in many siloed databases. So providing that end-to-end kind of analytics framework where you can go in from the setting up the platform to connecting the data to either building the scripts or reusing components to actually deploying it in a production environment and having version control. That's the service that many people or companies don't provide. वो एक जगह या दूसरी जगह पे concentrate करते हैं. We realized early on that the whole value chain together only makes sense. That's why we have about 7 to 8 roles just in a very specialized firm such as ours. And that's, I think, been very useful to clients because then they don't have to, they can work with one group, knowing that that group will reuse whatever is good in the world. The idea is not to build everything, but the idea is to provide a kind of customized solution that's built of many components that are linked together to provide that value they need. Faisal, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think I fully agree with Ayesha. Just a couple of more things. If you're looking for something end-to-end, which just like will switch on and with minimal customization, just like ERP, example of ERP. So my answer would be no, probably it would be quite hard. But the different components, for example, just to give you an example, like ETL part, like where we have to like ingest data, we have to build pipelines. So there are several tools like Talent, Informatica, Pentaho, Data Stage. And frankly speaking, I think we have like certified people of these tools and we are using it for different clients. They have different bugs. They have different issues because industry is changing continuously. Like now the focus is from on-prem to cloud. And each cloud has its own issue, its own kind of like everything is new variations are coming. So even these tools, these companies who are focusing on only certain part, they are struggling. And probably that's why what we are thinking, but our vision is we don't want to reinvent anything, but what already is there, right? So we will just try to use whatever is already there in cloud and try to bring in, try to make something around these things. So at least how we can expedite the work by using these tools. Maybe, for example, we can have some connectors, we can have certain models, we can have certain like pipelines. So this is something, this is very high level. But anyway, we do have like very precise accelerators where they solve a certain problem for a certain industry. So I think that is the right way, because if we are looking for something which solve like end to end, probably that would be quite hard because every component has companies and products and as Ayesha mentioned, and we have like roles, specialized roles, which handles like even if you go into one part, so where multiple roles will be needed there. It's not luxury like you would have like 10 roles, but you need to have these people. Maybe sometimes you need less time of an architect or data architect, but you would have to do that. Otherwise, you will make mistakes.
Okay, so I think there are a few questions about about the use of people are asking in the chat window about the reuse of available components. So we do understand that a lot of AI ML components are available these days, data science components which are developed. Maybe many of them are available open source as well. And as you mentioned, you make use of those rather than doing things from scratch. And then there are platforms, specifically people are asking about Snowflake and Databricks platforms. So probably you make use of those as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and then using those, you provide this end-to-end thing for any of the customers. So I'm going to ask this. This use of data and machine learning and AI, data science, this has gained a lot of popularity, and it is not hidden from anyone else, only in the last decade or so. So what the data existed before that as well. Every company used to have data, maybe 30 years ago, 25 years ago. What happened? What was the turning point? Like for the cell phones, we have the small chips was the turning point. Then, before early 90s, you used to have these big brick-sized cell phones, after which you got to this Motorola Razrs and very small sized phones, just because of the advancement in electronics, very small chips you could make that you could do a lot of DSP on and put in the cell phones. What happened in the field of data science? The data was already there even 25 years ago, but why did we not do any sort of data science, data analytics, machine learning at that time? Even if we look at the field of computer vision, it was all doing linear algebra, and has completely transformed with the basis in machine learning and applied probabilities. So what was the turning point? What in your opinion was the game changer here?
Faisal, do you want to go first?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, you go first.
Yeah, I think maybe Ayesha can add with respect to like industry perspective, and because she has a lot of exposure all over the world about these things. But my perspective is, of course, there are a couple of pillars. One is availability of data. So before that, right, from 2000 onward, with these smartphones, there is a huge amount of data. So now we have like huge variety of data, like data in at rest, and data from sensors, data from like multiple databases, data from different like SQL files, text files, Excel files. So the variety is huge. Like everybody knows about these, like the different V's of this data. I think this is one aspect. And other very important one is, I think starting from the first decade of 21st century, so there was introduction of distributed computing. For example, if you see like Hadoop and then Spark, so these were the platforms which enable people to just like shift from supercomputers to actually commodity hardware by using these distributed mechanisms, which enable companies and large scale companies to mine their data. So instead of having one kind of data warehouse, now they could have like huge scalability. They could do anything what they want. So this capability, starting from Google search engine and then MapReduce model. So these whole paradigm shift in computing also help people to think like they can handle all the data. They should not think about data models where they're trying to fit everything in data models, but just they can have like instead of ETL, they can have a ELT where they just extract, load, and then transform. Whenever they need to use something, they will think about the data. Otherwise, they're putting everything. Storage was cheap, computation was cheap, and this new paradigm of computation also helped the companies to scale and do and apply machine learning. And very good example is neural networks. So neural network is there for many long time. It was for like years, but from last 20 years. So why neural network is popular? Because computation is not a problem anymore. GPUs are there, and people have like all the data. This amount of data was not there. Now everything is perfectly set. Like data is there, computational platform is there, and now you can do that. So I think this is something, this paradigm shift, that was a real game changer in industry, where now everybody is just like fighting like how we can better mine our data, better control on our customer 360 view, or like just like mining, just to name anything and any industry people are trying to get from the data. Ayesha?
I completely agree. And then what we've seen is that with the introduction of easy to understand concepts like cloud computing, which gives you storage as you use it, which is a concept that's going to everything, right? From tires to cars to everything, which is subscription-based computation usage. It's democratized access to this huge firepower of computation. And then we have seen that in the media and other things, everybody's talking about the power of this data that large companies have used. And of course, China has been very influential, because while Amazon and others were not evangelizing it as much as they have recently, but Alibaba and the companies in China, including WeChat, have really shown the power of using it and personalizing services to their customers. So this, together with the story, together with the capability, has reached that really sweet spot where it's created this amazing momentum now in the market.
Yeah, I think I would also agree with that availability of the data center fabric is the enabler for doing, huge amount of computation. Perhaps it was pushed because of the early days search engines and recommendation systems, with the likes of Google and Amazon, when the need was there and they wanted something, with large machines doing lots of computation, and the intensive computation models were developed, which paved way for doing something like AI and neural networks. I still remember, when I was a grad student, I think I still have that neural networks book, was published in mid 90s, and a friend of mine was taking the course and dropped the course because it was so unpopular. So unpopular at that time. Nobody wanted to take the neural network course at that time. And he gave the book to me, and I kept it, and I still have it, 25 years later. And I never opened it. Never opened it. To this day, it was just being dusted. But I think, a lot of people, unlike me, would have access to these books and would have, gone back to the field of neural network, which has regained the popularity. So I think, there is no disagreement on the utility of data and how companies, enterprises, they want the data to be utilized. Do you think that it is overemphasized? And I'll give you an example. I was, a couple of years ago, maybe just before COVID, I was visiting Berkeley in their computer science department, and one of the faculty members were telling me that, more than half of the applicants are in the field of AI and machine learning. Berkeley is a big university, offers a lot of different areas, but bulk of the students opting for one single field. Do you think it is overemphasized, or is this like a bubble, or do you think it is real? I don't know. It's a tough question, maybe, or maybe not. Ayesha,
I do want to address it, because in Singapore, we place a lot of emphasis on it as well. So there's no doubt that understanding the basics of machine learning and computer science is very beneficial to anybody as a foundation, because there is not a single industry that you're going to go into where you're not going to be using some machine software, some machine algorithm to help you construct your service or product better. However, doing it to the exclusion of other things such as business studies, communication, humanities is a big mistake. Because one of the things that one struggles with often is, you see, there's technical skills, and yes, there's demand for that. But then above that, you add technical skills to product design, to problem solving, and that takes your value in the market from here to here. And where we want all our team members to go is to go beyond just thinking technically, but to really think the way science is. Science is really not about having answers, but it is the journey of experimentation to get to an answer. And somehow, especially, I grew up in Lahore, and I did my, senior Cambridge, then I did my FA, and and the way we were taught was science and engineering was just about getting to the right answer. So we didn't understand the journey as well, unless we had a very good teacher. So I think that we have to change the way all of us. Pakistan is incredible talent, but it's too focused sometimes on technique. Whereas where we want our really incredible, creative, innovative spirit to come out is, and every single one of us is capable of that, is to problem solve and to strategize with technology. And that means you are forever marketable, because the technology will keep changing. Today it's AI, tomorrow it's virtual reality, after that it's quantum computing, but you are very adaptive then. And that's the kind of company we want to build. That's what I see in our teammates every day. And I think that's, so I would say, please study your humanities. Please study your literature. Please study your Urdu literature, English literature, whatever it is. Study your communication skills, and then combine it with the AI ML. And that is a killer combination.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, Dr. Ayesha. Thank you very much. So I have one more question about, the area and the customers that you serve. Do you feel that the customers in this domain, since it is something relatively new, use of data to make company-wide decisions, do you think that the customers are already knowledgeable, or do you have to educate them and tell them what they need? And does it make the selling a little bit more difficult? So yeah, please.
Yeah, okay, so I can start and then Faisal can add in. Look, I mean, when we started 4 years ago, it was so weird. You know, we would go in and everybody would want to meet us because they said, oh, AI is a very new thing. Humne kahin magazine mein padha hai. But they didn't understand what it was. They expected something really fantastic, which was impossible. You know, some impossible magic pony in the sky. But now things have really changed. People ask us to think about data. They understand it all starts from the data and the quality of the data, and then the ability not to just have little pilots here and there, but to have a scalable infrastructure by which you can create a data culture for the whole organization. So while they are more receptive now to the right way of doing things, we don't have to educate as much at the C-suite level, and we always go in at the CEO level or the chief digital officer level. We do realize that all the middle management is often either hesitant or afraid or doesn't know. And we insist on giving them workshops because I think because I come from a family of professors, Faisal is a professor, we can't help ourselves. We don't think that anybody should not be empowered. So हम जहाँ भी अपने करते हैं, हम साथ trainings देते हैं उन्हें, ताकि they are empowered and we leave them and they can continue to build something. ये बहुत important है, I think. And इसके लिए you need constantly to educate everybody in the client team. And Faisal, you run a lot of these, you know, organize a lot of these trainings. So your reflections would be good here.
So I have a question specifically, you know, Faisal, maybe you can answer that. जो companies की needs होती हैं, sometimes they have this technical data, you know, furnace से data आ रहा है या किसी manufacturing process से ये data आ रहा है. So there is, you know, technical data per se that you have to collect and analyze. But many of these companies, you know, especially the mid-size and the larger ones, are also, you know, very, very picky about optimizing their business processes. And obviously there is lots of data there as well. You guys are only focused on the data which is obtained, which is, you know, technical data, I would say, or you also, you know, run some analytics on the business processes and business data as well.
So when you say technical data, so it means like the data coming from, so what exactly does that mean?
So that means कि किसी manufacturing processes से वो data इकट्ठा हो रहा है, you know, how many people working, output, and maybe in a furnace वहाँ मुख्तलिफ points पे क्या temperatures हैं and things like that. So उस तरह का data आप analyze करेंगे, या telcos के case में I see you have a telco customer as well. So उसके अंदर CDRs हो सकती हैं, you know, which is more technical data rather than you know, not impacting the business structure of the company. So आपका focus जो है वो दोनों के ऊपर है या more on the technical data is only?
दोनों के ऊपर है. I think this is very important कि आप so basically we go as a data expert. So sometimes it is not important what kind of data is coming. So it could be sensor data कि कोई आपकी furnace का आ रहा है या आपके sensors का आ रहा है या आपके boilers का आ रहा है, तो वो जो भी data for us it is more like a real time data. Maybe जहाँ पे अब time series data है, अगर time stamp है, अब time के अंदर stamp एक time stamp पे क्या हो रहा है, this is secondary thing. Maybe this is here we need to decode it with the help of domain experts. But for us this is secondary. So as a data expert, we only know like the data is coming is whether it's real data, real time data, whether it's structured data, is semi-structured data. So now these categories can have anything. So it can be like, you just name it and this data is there. But we try to handle this part with two things. One, we always try to have like very close interaction with the customer to better understand and decode what exactly they are doing, what process they are following, and what exactly we try to have design sessions, what exactly they want to achieve from this exercise. And at the second step, we also try to have like domain experts from our side. So at least we can internally help our technical team to better understand this data and to extract value out of it. As Ayesha mentioned in the beginning, so this in addition to the technical stuff, this kind of making sense out of this data is very important. So yes, we do handle like both things.
So to highlight that, I think if it would be great if you can talk about a use case or two use cases. I saw on your website you have a big telco customer and a transportation company as a customer. So if you can use one or both of these as examples to highlight, without going into the confidential matters, what kind of data that you would have available, and what kind of inferences that you would be extracting from that, which is useful for those businesses. Telco ke liye jo useful hoga ya transportation company ke liye wo useful hoga.
Well, let me talk a little bit. I'll let Faisal talk about telco. I'll talk about healthcare. So basically, if you take a classic example of a large hospital network, and they have a lot of types of data. They have data around electronic health medical records that they have, unstructured doctor notes, radiology records. They have all of their hospital utilization and staffing records. Now they want to create value-based healthcare, or they want to lower the cost of healthcare, and they want to have more interventions in the patient journey to reduce their readmission after a certain hospital procedure, for example. So the first thing that we have to do is organize this data in a way that is easily amenable to machine learning and to data analytics. So a use case, for example, may be that for chronic heart failure patients, can you predict when they might have recidivism, or they might again be susceptible to readmission to the hospital? And if you can do this based on the historical data that you have, not only your own data, but social health demographic data as well, you can enrich it with different kinds of data, then you can reach out to them in time before they get sicker and proactively take care of their health. When you do that, the cost of healthcare for the health system goes down. And that is the type of use case that we're working on. It immediately brings value both to the patient and to the hospital. Another thing may be, can you predict the kinds of emergency queue lines in a hospital? So a hospital has hundreds of use cases like this. One of them was that our emergency queue lines are really long. There's a lot of frustration, and we never have the right mix of people at any given time in the hospital. So what we did was we started to predict what kinds of ailments do people bring into the hospital on different days of the year or different times of the day. And based on this, what is that person's journey in the hospital? So depending on what your ailment may be, you need an ECG, or you need a radiology report, or you need something else. If you can predict that path, then you can make sure that you have certain kinds of doctors and nurses on call on that day. So we did that improved the forecasting by 20%, and the resource optimization improved as well. So again, here you are matching the supply and demand, except in a hospital setting. So these are just two examples on which you are using a wide variety of data, structured, unstructured, real-time, batch. And together, the key is to use it in a way that at the end of the day is either integrated back and gives an alert to the doctor in terms of some system that they're using, or is a report sent that is used by the finance officer, again, immediately operationalized. The difference between business intelligence and artificial intelligence is you immediately operationalize it. It is not just a report. And the final thing that's very important in all of this is governance. We have a strong mandate to make sure that not only is the data governed properly, in terms of how it's used, its data privacy, its compliance to whatever regulation in financial services or in healthcare or any other industry that we're in, that these are compliant, but also that a lot of clients are now asking about ethics, which Faisal has a PhD that is actually in anti-bias algorithms. So all of these things are very important. The last thing you want to do is create models without thinking about what they're being used for, models to get out of control and there being no governance around them, no management and retraining of them. And creating, what we want to do is create systems that are self-sustaining and continue to learn as more data is added in. So that's just for the healthcare example, which we're doing lots of work in that, including building a crisis infrastructure command center. We're going to start for a country where anytime a pandemic or anything happens, it's connected to all the hospitals and the pharmacies, and they can identify where there may be a resurgence of an infection, the efficacy of vaccines, and where more pharmaceuticals are needed. So we see not only companies doing this, we see government agencies coming to us, trying to use AI/ML in a way that fundamentally changes their operations. It changes the way they operate and automates and improves a lot of their services. So that's healthcare, but maybe Faisal, you can talk about telco a little bit.
Sure, definitely. I think for telco, I would mention two parts of our work. One is for a telco, we were trying to, that particular telco was using a proprietary data warehousing system from Teradata. And everybody knows like Teradata is quite expensive. And if you have to process your data, huge amounts of data, and you want to scale, so it has its own cost available attached to this whole processing. So the client was interested to move this from Teradata to open source a cloud database system. So where they wanted to have a certain technology stack which is less expensive and more scalable. So in this implementation, we tried to bring in their data from more than 50 diverse sources. And so it includes their CDRs, their data, their voice, their SMS, there's several other systems like that. And idea was just like to get data from these systems on and having this data available for all the business reporting and some of OLTP operations on day -1 basis. So we wrote pipelines to fetch data from text files, from their billing system based from like Oracle-based billing system, from their other kind of data sources which had like I mean, all kind of like sensor data, but whatever they have, like I wouldn't name those things. So then the building pipeline and having reports on that one. So that was a part one. And now, so they are preparing for 75 use cases on that part because data is available. We have tiered architecture where all the source data is there. And we have like a curated form which can be used for machine learning. This is first part. I would also mention some of our use cases for telco. For example, for one of the largest telco, we did a use case where they have a lot of reports, incidents on daily basis from different problems, complaints from the client. And we tried to, and this complaint had two things. One, some description of the complaint, and other thing was like from which customer is logging this complaint, and at what time this complaint is being logged, all the details about like the other parameters. So instead of this description, in addition to the description, all other parameters. And now it was taking almost 30 minutes of their engineers to actually classify what kind of complaint it is. In our system, and then they were forwarding this complaint to the right engineer, which was again like a task of like maybe like a couple of hours to address that one. And just like interestingly, almost I think 30-40% of complaints were on very simple things, like maybe the power outage, or maybe they need to restart their router. So now what we did, we tried to use NLP models using deep learning, where we tried to extract the description, and also we tried to extract all the other parameters of these tickets, and we put them into ensemble models. So it was basically a combination of classical machine learning models and also deep learning models, which were the classical machine learning models were basically more focused to get like other parameters of the complaint, and deep learning were more focused towards like solving of NLP problem, NLP part of this one. And now the next step was just to, first of all, identifying what kind of problem it is, and moving it to the right category, a right engineer to solve. And then second thing, so that if the request can be automatically solved, for example, if it's just like a power outage, they have a schedule in the front of them. If they understand this is as per schedule, it will be automatically responded that, okay, so this is just a power outage, you have to just wait in that area. Second, if there is for example, if that client has to restart their router, I'm just giving a very simple example. So that automatic message would go like, okay, just restart your router. So it was a significant decrease in their overall like complaint handling system, and the people who are they used to have used to engage on this kind of complaint cell to just like effectively, efficiently handle these complaints and serve their clients.
Thank you, Faisal. Exciting to see that that these applications can bring can bring a reduction to the downtime of a telco network, or reduce the costs of healthcare. We are already a little bit over time, but I'm going to take 2-3 extra minutes to touch upon very briefly a couple of topics which are very relevant to Pakistan. One is about the introduction of the data science programs in Pakistan. Many universities have started offering the data science program. Just need your very quick thoughts on that, Ayesha. What do you think about launching these data science programs in addition to the existing computer science programs? Do you think it's proliferation of the degrees, and data science can be taught within the computer science discipline, or do you think it was a necessity, or it's somewhere in between? What are your thoughts?
My thinking is it's that demand has made that it's a good idea. And again, it really depends, what are you teaching in the data science? I think data science masters, etc., are actually teaching statistics and probability and theory. And that's a wonderful and really interesting area to study. I mean, I did a lot of statistics, in my master's also. So, but if you're just going to take courses and learn about libraries, you get the job done, but you don't enjoy it as much. Maybe I'm too geeky, so I think it's more enjoyable when you go into the depths of it, but also it makes you more adaptive. So my recommendation is, if you have the time, do the degree, because I think that's better than just doing the courses. But like Faisal, of course, has been running these programs like you. So Faisal, please give your input.
No, I agree. I think a degree program is usually more kind of right, properly designed one. For example, in ITU, we have a degree program, data science MS program, which is like almost, it contains all the ingredients, starting from machine learning, information retrieval, probability and statistics. So you actually get the like what is a well-rounded data scientist need to learn.
I would just say, okay, one thing we never do, and which I did in my PhD, I learned also the hard way, is we don't teach good communication and data storytelling. That's what we struggle with. We struggle with in Asia in particular, but in general with these programs. So we should start combining those. Again, communication, articulation, defense. So you have to defend why you went a certain way. And that is very new to us as well, right? In Addo.Ai, again, we proactively recommend ways forward to our clients instead of asking them to just, instead of waiting for them for requirements. We're not that typical software engineering firm, right? We're going out there and it's so new, we're helping them solve it. And when you solve something, then you defend it. And that idea of defending articulately and making arguments in favor of your approach, that's very academic in nature. And it's a wonderful thing for everybody to learn. And I think that we just should add these things because ये फिर हमें बहुत advantage देंगे पाकिस्तान में.
Great. So one more thing relevant to Pakistan that I'm going to pick your brains on is, about the new companies. We have seen in the last 1 year or so, lots and lots of interest from the VC community in Pakistani startups. Almost all of these startups are IT enabled. So lots and lots of data is there. What are your thoughts on the general development of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Pakistan, and specifically for these companies and the use of data analytics in these companies? Your thoughts, Ayesha?
I'm very excited. I think there's nobody who is from Pakistan who's not super excited about this, and Park Launch is an incredible aggregator of this ecosystem. I think it's wonderful. I hope everybody's using data and analytics. Obviously, the consumer-facing apps that we have are like in India, like in China, like in Indonesia. These are the ones that are really going to take off. B2C is going to be the big industry players leading it. So it would be foolish not to use that data well. The mistake a lot of our clients have made, which I hope none of these startups are making, and now we're beginning to work with startups also, is to build the right data infrastructure. So usually what they do is they're like, data is coming, we'll think later about how to use it. It's not in our roadmap right now. But if you build it correctly from the start, you won't have to rebuild it. And there's well-known like best practices to do it for streaming data, for others that allow you to scale massively. And I think scale is what we'll see in Pakistan. So I do recommend to all startups to actually focus on their data infrastructure.
Thank you, Ayesha. That's a great advice for all the startups in Pakistan. So folks, we are already a little bit over time. I would like to thank very much, Ayesha. Thank you so much. It's past 1 a.m. in Singapore. Faisal, thank you so much. A very, very exciting area of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, weather prediction, which used to take enormous amount of collection of physical data, that has transformed into just running a small algorithm and getting a prediction of the weather in few minutes. So very, very excited to have you work on in this area and making sure that Pakistan is on that map. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you everybody at Park Lodge. Bye.
Thank you ji. Khuda Hafiz.
Hafiz.